My straight best friend asked me to pretend to be his boyfriend for one weekend. I thought it was a joke. 3 weeks later, he punched a wall because another guy asked me on a date. Ryan Carter had always believed that some feelings were meant to stay hidden forever. For 6 years, Ethan Walker had been his best friend. 6 years of late-night calls. 6 years of football games, road trips, movie nights, and inside jokes. 6 years of pretending his heart didn't race every time Ethan smiled at him. Not that Ethan ever noticed. Why would he? As far as Ryan knew, Ethan was completely straight. Girls loved him. Ethan was tall, confident, funny, and somehow managed to make everyone around him feel comfortable. He was the kind of guy who could walk into a room and instantly become everyone's favorite person. Ryan had accepted long ago that Ethan would never look at him the way he wanted. At least that's what he thought. Until the phone call that changed everything. It was a rainy Thursday evening in Seattle. Ryan sat at his apartment desk finishing a logo design for a client when his phone rang. Ethan. A smile instantly appeared on Ryan's face. "What's up?" Ryan answered. "Emergency." Ryan laughed. "You say that every week."
"No, seriously."
"This is bad." Something in Ethan's voice sounded different. Ryan sat up straighter. "What happened?" There was a long pause. Then Ethan said something Ryan never expected. "I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend." Ryan nearly dropped his phone. "What? You heard me." "I definitely did not hear you." Ethan groaned. "Can I come over?" 20 minutes later, Ethan was sitting on Ryan's couch, running both hands through his hair. Ryan watched him carefully. Something was definitely wrong. "Okay," Ryan said. "Start explaining." Ethan sighed. "You remember Emily?" Ryan immediately wished he didn't. Emily was Ethan's ex-girlfriend. They had broken up nearly 8 months ago. Unfortunately, Emily had never accepted that the relationship was over. "Unfortunately, yes. She's going to my cousin's wedding." Ryan frowned. So she somehow convinced herself we're getting back together." Ryan blinked. "What? I know. That's insane. I know. You're not getting back together. I know." Ryan couldn't help laughing. Ethan buried his face in a pillow. "This isn't funny." "It kind of is." "It isn't when she's telling my entire family we're working things out." Ryan's smile disappeared. "Oh, yeah." Now he understood the problem. Ethan looked exhausted. For months, Emily had been showing up unexpectedly. Sending texts, calling, creating drama. Ryan knew Ethan hated confrontation, which was probably why things had gotten so out of control. "So where do I fit into this disaster?" Ethan looked at him, and for the first time seemed genuinely nervous. "My cousin's wedding is this weekend." Ryan nodded slowly. And if I show up alone?" Ryan immediately understood. "Oh no." Ethan pointed at him. "Exactly. Oh, absolutely not." "Ryan."
"No."
"Please." Ryan stared at him. Ethan stared back. Neither spoke. Finally, Ryan groaned. "You are unbelievable." "I know. You want me to pretend we're dating. Just for one weekend. This is the worst idea you've ever had." Ethan smiled hopefully. "Not the worst. Top 3. Fair." Ryan leaned back against the couch. His heart was already making terrible decisions. Because the truth was simple. If Ethan asked him for almost anything, he'd probably say yes. And they both knew it. "1 weekend." Ethan's face lit up. "Seriously? 1 weekend?" Ethan jumped up. "You are the greatest friend alive." Ryan forced a smile. "Friend, right?" The next 2 days passed in a blur. They practiced their story. How long they'd supposedly been dating. Where they'd met. How much information they would share. Every conversation felt dangerous. Because pretending to be Ethan's boyfriend was strangely easy. Too easy. By Friday night, they were driving toward Portland where the wedding would take place. Rain tapped softly against the windshield. The car filled with music. For a while, neither spoke. Then Ethan glanced sideways. "You nervous?" Ryan laughed. "I'm not the one lying to my entire family. They'll love you." "That isn't helping." "I'm serious." Ryan looked out the window. The problem wasn't Ethan's family. The problem was Ethan himself. Being this close to him for an entire weekend felt like walking toward a disaster with a smile on his face. A few hours later they arrived at the hotel. The trouble started immediately. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Checking in together?" Before Ryan could answer, Ethan wrapped an arm around his shoulders. "Yep." The receptionist handed them a room key. "Perfect. You're in room 418. Ryan took the card. Then froze. One room. One room. One room. Ethan looked equally shocked. The receptionist smiled. "Enjoy your stay." Ryan slowly turned toward Ethan. "Tell me there are 2 beds." Ethan swallowed. "Let's stay optimistic." 5 minutes later they opened the hotel room door. 1 bed. A single king-sized bed. Silence filled the room. Ryan looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at Ryan. Neither moved. Finally Ethan laughed nervously. "Well." Ryan pointed.
No.
"It's huge.
No.
We survived college road trips. This is worse." "Why?" Ryan immediately regretted asking. Because Ethan suddenly smirked. "You afraid I'll fall in love with you?" Ryan nearly walked into a wall. Ethan laughed. Ryan forced himself to laugh too. But his heart wasn't laughing. The wedding rehearsal dinner began that evening. Ryan expected awkwardness. Instead he found himself surrounded by warm, welcoming people. Ethan's family instantly adored him. His grandmother hugged him. His cousins invited him to sit with them. His aunt kept calling him the handsome boyfriend. Every time Ryan tried correcting someone, Ethan squeezed his shoulder, playing the role, staying in character. But somewhere during dinner, Ryan noticed something strange. Ethan seemed happier than usual, relaxed, comfortable, almost proud whenever someone mentioned them as a couple. Maybe Ryan was imagining it. He hoped he was, because imagining things around Ethan was dangerous. The evening became even more complicated when Emily arrived. The second she saw Ryan sitting beside Ethan, her smile disappeared. Ryan almost felt bad for her. Almost. She approached the table. "Ethan." Ethan's expression immediately tightened. "Emily." Her eyes moved toward Ryan. "Who's this?" Ryan opened his mouth. But Ethan answered first. "My boyfriend." The word hit Ryan like a truck. Boyfriend. Simple. Casual. Fake. And yet hearing Ethan say it made his chest tighten. Emily clearly wasn't expecting that answer. Her face lost color. For several uncomfortable seconds nobody spoke. Then she forced a smile. "Interesting." Ryan could practically see the jealousy in her eyes. She didn't stay long. The moment she walked away, Ethan released a long breath. "That went better than expected." Ryan laughed. "Did it?" "She didn't throw anything." Fair point. The next day was wedding day. Everything should have felt simple. Instead it kept getting more complicated. Photos together. Family introductions. Holding hands whenever Emily appeared nearby. Standing shoulder to shoulder for pictures. Sharing private jokes. The fake relationship was becoming alarmingly believable. Even to Ryan. Especially to Ryan. That evening the reception began. Music filled the ballroom. Lights glowed warmly across the dance floor. Guests laughed. People danced. And for the first time all day Ryan allowed himself to relax. Then the bride announced couples dancing. Ryan froze. Across the room Ethan looked equally surprised. "Oh no." Ryan laughed nervously. "Oh yes." Everyone started moving toward the dance floor. And suddenly there was no escape. A minute later Ryan found himself standing face to face with Ethan beneath hundreds of glowing lights. The music slowed. People around them disappeared. Not literally. Just in the way everything else faded whenever Ethan looked directly at him. Ethan placed one hand on Ryan's shoulder. Ryan's pulse instantly doubled. They started moving slowly with the music. Neither spoke. The moment felt strangely intimate. Dangerously intimate. Ryan reminded himself this wasn't real. Couldn't be. It never could be. Then Ethan moved slightly closer. His hand settled gently against Ryan's waist. Ryan stopped breathing. For one terrifying second their eyes met. And Ethan didn't look away. The noise of the room disappeared. The music faded. Everything vanished except the space between them. Then Ethan leaned closer, close enough that only Ryan could hear him, and quietly whispered, "Don't look now." Ryan's heart hammered. "But you're making this feel way too real." Ryan wasn't sure he slept at all that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard Ethan's voice again. "You're making this feel way too real." Maybe Ethan had only been joking. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe Ryan was overthinking everything. That explanation made the most sense, which was exactly why he hated it. The next morning they drove back to Seattle. The wedding was over. The fake relationship was supposed to be over too. But something felt different. Ethan seemed quieter, distracted. Every few minutes Ryan caught him staring out the window before quickly looking away. By the time they reached Seattle, neither had mentioned the dance. Neither had mentioned the hotel room. Neither had mentioned the strange tension that had appeared between them. And yet it remained, lingering, waiting. 3 days later Ryan was sitting in his favorite coffee shop downtown when his phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Ryan smiled. "Working." 30 seconds later another text appeared. "Ethan, you eat lunch yet?" Ryan frowned. "No." "Ethan, you should." Ryan laughed. "Since when are you my mother?" A full minute passed. Then another message appeared. "Ethan, just checking." Ryan stared at the screen. Something definitely felt different. Over the next week Ethan became impossible to ignore. More texts. More calls. More random visits. More excuses to spend time together. At first Ryan enjoyed it. Then he started noticing something strange. Every interaction seemed to happen on Ethan's schedule. When Ethan wanted attention, he appeared. When Ethan wanted company, he called. When Ethan felt lonely, Ryan was expected to be available. Ryan didn't mind, until someone new entered the picture. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. Ryan was meeting a marketing team at a new client office downtown. The presentation lasted almost 2 hours. By the end of it, everyone was exhausted. As people packed their laptops, a voice spoke beside him. That logo redesign was impressive. Ryan turned. The speaker was tall, athletic, and surprisingly handsome. Dark hair, confident smile, expensive suit. Ryan immediately recognized him from the meeting. "Liam, right?" The man smiled. "Good memory." Ryan shook his hand. "Lucky guess." Liam laughed. "No, definitely memory." For some reason that answer made Ryan smile. They talked for a few minutes. Design, work, Seattle traffic. Nothing important. But the conversation felt easy, comfortable. Before leaving, Liam pulled out his phone. "You seem interesting." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "That's either a compliment or an insult." "It's definitely a compliment." Ryan laughed. Liam smiled. "Can I buy you coffee sometime?" For a second Ryan froze, then realized Liam was genuinely asking. Not professionally, personally. Ryan hadn't been on a date in months, maybe longer. Life had been busy. And if he was honest, part of him had spent years emotionally unavailable because of Ethan. Maybe it was time to move forward. Maybe it was time to stop waiting for something that would never happen. So Ryan smiled. "Sure." Liam's smile widened. "Great." They exchanged numbers. And just like that, everything changed. That evening Ryan told Ethan. Big mistake. They were watching football in Ethan's apartment when Ryan casually mentioned it. "I met someone today." Ethan looked away from the TV. "What?" Ryan shrugged. "A guy." A strange expression crossed Ethan's face. "What kind of guy?" Ryan laughed. "The human kind." Ethan didn't laugh. Ryan noticed. "A guy named Liam." Silence. "Okay." Ryan glanced at him. Something felt off. "Okay. Yeah." Ryan waited. Nothing. Eventually he turned back toward the television. The conversation seemed finished. Except it wasn't. 5 minutes later Ethan asked, "How old is he?" Ryan looked over. "What?" "Liam." Ryan blinked. 26. Ethan nodded slowly. Another minute passed. Then another question. "What does he do?" Ryan stared. Marketing. A few more minutes. Then another question. Where'd you meet him? Ryan started laughing. What is this? Ethan looked confused. What? Are you interviewing him? I'm just asking. Ryan grinned. Aha. Ethan rolled his eyes. But somehow he didn't look amused. The following week Ryan and Liam went for coffee. The date went surprisingly well. Liam was smart, funny, confident without being arrogant. For the first time in a long time Ryan found himself genuinely interested in someone. That should have been a good thing. Instead it created a problem. Because Ethan started acting weird. Really weird. The first sign came Saturday morning. Ryan was having breakfast with Liam when his phone buzzed. Ethan. Ryan ignored it. 2 minutes later another text arrived. Then another. Then another. Liam laughed. Popular. Ryan checked his screen. 3 messages. Ethan. Where are you? Ethan. Wanna watch the game later? Ethan. You alive? Ryan shook his head. He gets dramatic when people don't answer immediately. Liam smiled. Best friend. Ryan nodded. Since college. Liam looked thoughtful. He texts a lot. Ryan laughed. You have no idea. The messages continued throughout the day. Then throughout the week. Every time Ryan spent time with Liam, Ethan somehow appeared. Not literally, but almost. Calls, texts, invitations, questions, random excuses. It became impossible not to notice. Then came the company rooftop party. The moment everything escalated. Ryan had invited Ethan. Liam was already there. The sunset painted the Seattle skyline gold as music played around them. For a while things remained normal. Then Liam arrived carrying 2 drinks. One for himself. One for Ryan. The gesture was small. Completely harmless. But Ryan happened to glance across the rooftop at exactly the wrong moment. Because Ethan was watching. And he looked furious. Not annoyed. Not uncomfortable. Furious. Ryan nearly dropped his drink. What was that? The expression vanished almost instantly. But Ryan had definitely seen it. For the rest of the evening Ethan barely spoke. Liam eventually noticed too. Does your friend not like me? Ryan laughed nervously. I have no idea. The answer wasn't entirely true. Deep down Ryan was starting to suspect something. The problem was that the answer made absolutely no sense. A week later Liam officially asked Ryan out. Not coffee. Not hanging out. A real date. Proper date. Dinner. Waterfront restaurant. Friday night. Ryan agreed. For the first time in years he felt excited. Hopeful. Maybe even happy. Then Ethan found out. And everything exploded. Ryan was leaving work when Ethan appeared outside his building. Waiting. Hands shoved into his jacket pockets. Looking irritated. What are you doing here? Ethan shrugged. Thought I'd see you. Ryan smiled. That's surprisingly normal. Ethan didn't smile back. Ryan immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? Ethan stared at him. Then asked. So you're dating him now? Ryan blinked. Liam. Who else? Ryan frowned. We've gone out a few times. Ethan looked away. His jaw tightened. Right? Ryan's patience started disappearing. What is your problem? Nothing. That's a lie. Silence. People walked past them on the sidewalk. Cars moved through downtown traffic. Neither spoke. Finally Ryan crossed his arms. Seriously, Ethan. For several seconds Ethan said nothing. Then he laughed. A short, humorless laugh. You barely know him. Ryan stared. What? You barely know him. Ryan couldn't believe what he was hearing. You don't even know him, I know enough. No, you don't. The argument continued for several minutes. Back and forth. Neither listening. Neither understanding. Until Ryan finally snapped. Why do you care so much? Silence. Immediate silence. The question seemed to hit Ethan like a truck. For the first time all evening he had no answer. Ryan waited. The city noise filled the space between them. Still nothing. Then Ethan looked away. His voice quieter than before. More vulnerable. More honest. Because maybe he couldn't stop himself anymore. Because I hate seeing you with him. Ryan froze. His heartbeat instantly accelerated. The entire world seemed to stop moving. Ethan looked equally shocked by his own words, like he hadn't meant to say them out loud. Neither spoke. Neither moved. And before Ryan could ask what that actually meant, Ethan turned and walked away, leaving Ryan standing alone on the sidewalk, completely stunned. And more confused than ever before. Ryan stood on that sidewalk for a long time after Ethan left. Because I hate seeing you with him. The words replayed in his mind all night, over and over. Every possible interpretation ran through his head. Maybe Ethan liked him. Maybe Ethan was jealous. Maybe the wedding weekend had changed something. Maybe, but every time hope started to appear, reality crushed it. Ethan had spent 6 years dating women. 6 years talking about girlfriends. 6 years treating Ryan like his best friend. Nothing more. Ryan had made the mistake of hoping before. He wasn't going to do it again. The next morning, Ethan acted like nothing had happened. A text appeared. Ethan morning. Ryan stared at it. No mention of yesterday.
No explanation. No apology.
Nothing. Ryan typed 3 different responses. Deleted all of them. Finally, he sent, "Morning." That was it. The conversation never moved beyond small talk. And somehow that hurt more. Because if Ethan truly meant something by those words, why wasn't he saying it? Why wasn't he explaining? Why wasn't he fighting for whatever this was? Instead, he was pretending everything was normal. As if he hadn't just turned Ryan's world upside down. Over the next week, Ryan focused on Liam. It seemed safer. Simpler. Liam knew what he wanted. Liam wasn't confusing. Liam didn't send mixed signals. When Liam smiled, Ryan knew exactly what it meant. When Liam complimented him, there was no guessing. No emotional puzzle to solve. No risk of heartbreak. At least that's what Ryan kept telling himself. One Friday evening, Liam took him to a restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay. The sunset painted the water gold. The atmosphere was perfect. The conversation flowed easily. For the first time in weeks, Ryan started relaxing. Then his phone buzzed. Ethan. Ryan ignored it. A second later, it buzzed again. Then again. Liam raised an eyebrow. "You should probably answer." Ryan sighed. "It's Ethan." Liam laughed softly. "Of course it is." Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" Liam hesitated, then carefully said, "Honestly, yeah." Liam looked out toward the water. "I think your best friend likes you more than he admits." Ryan's stomach tightened. Immediately, "That's not happening." Liam looked unconvinced. Ryan quickly changed the subject. But Liam's words stayed with him. Because part of him wanted to believe them. The dangerous part. The part that still remembered the wedding dance. The hand on his waist. The look in Ethan's eyes. The jealousy. The confession. "I hate seeing you with him." But wanting something didn't make it true. The real disaster arrived 3 days later. Ryan was leaving his office when someone called his name. He turned. Emily. Instantly his mood dropped. She approached with a smile that looked fake. "Ryan, what do you want?" Her smile widened. Straight to the point. "I learned from the best." Emily folded her arms. For a moment neither spoke. Then she sighed dramatically. "I actually came to help you." Ryan almost laughed. "That's hard to believe." "You should listen anyway." Against his better judgment, he did. And Emily delivered exactly the kind of lie Ryan was vulnerable enough to believe. "Ethan talked to me last week." Ryan's heart immediately sped up. "What about?" Emily shrugged. "You." Ryan froze. Emily lowered her voice. "He told me he hates how complicated things have become." Ryan felt his chest tighten. "What are you talking about?" "He said people keep getting the wrong idea." Every word landed harder than the last. "He told me he's definitely straight." Ryan's stomach dropped. Emily continued. "He said you're one of his closest friends. But that's all." Ryan looked away, suddenly unable to breathe properly. Emily noticed, and kept going, because she knew she was winning. "He feels guilty." Ryan swallowed. "Guilty? For leading you on?" The world seemed strangely quiet. A ringing filled Ryan's ears. Part of him wanted to walk away. Part of him wanted to believe she was lying. But another part, the insecure part, the scared part, the realistic part, that part believed every word. Because wasn't this exactly what made sense? Of course Ethan was straight. Of course Ryan had imagined everything. Of course the wedding had meant nothing. Of course the jealousy meant nothing. Ryan had built entire fantasies out of moments, just like he'd always feared. Emily's voice softened. You deserve someone who actually wants you. Then she left, leaving Ryan alone with a shattered heart. That night Ethan called. Ryan didn't answer. The next day Ethan texted. Ryan ignored it. Then came another text. And another. And another. Days passed. Ryan responded less and less. Eventually he stopped responding completely. At first Ethan seemed confused, then concerned, then desperate. Ryan watched the messages appear on his screen. Where are you? Did I do something? Can we talk? Ryan, please. Each message hurt, because a part of him still wanted to answer. A part of him still wanted Ethan to prove Emily wrong. But he never did.
No confession. No explanation. No truth.
Just confusion. So Ryan made a decision. He chose himself. For once, he stopped waiting, stopped hoping, stopped chasing impossible dreams. And slowly he started building a wall around his heart. The friendship collapsed faster than either of them expected. Weeks passed. No game nights, no movie nights, no random phone calls, no coffee runs.
No Ethan.
For 6 years Ryan had spoken to Ethan almost every day. Now there was nothing. The silence felt unbearable. But Ryan forced himself to live with it. Liam noticed immediately. One evening they were walking along the waterfront when Liam finally asked, "Do you miss him?" Ryan didn't answer right away, because the answer was obvious. Terribly. Liam sighed. "You still love him." Ryan stopped walking. The words hurt because they were true. For several seconds he stared at the water. Then quietly said, "It doesn't matter." Liam looked at him carefully. "Maybe it should." Ryan shook his head.
No.
Because Ethan didn't love him back. At least not the way he wanted. And that was the end of the story. Or so he thought. 2 weeks later Ryan ran into Ethan's cousin, Sarah. Completely by accident. She was grabbing coffee before work. Ryan almost left. But she spotted him first. "Ryan." He forced a smile. "Hey." Sarah immediately noticed something was wrong. "Have you talked to Ethan?" Ryan's expression hardened. "Not recently." Her smile disappeared. "Oh." Ryan frowned. "What?" Sarah looked genuinely confused. "You really don't know?" A cold feeling settled in Ryan's stomach. "Know what?" Sarah stared at him, then slowly said, "He's been miserable." Ryan froze. "What?" Sarah nodded. "For weeks." Ryan's heart began pounding. "He barely talks to anyone." Ryan didn't say anything. Couldn't. Sarah continued. "He stopped going out. He stopped seeing friends. He barely sleeps." Every sentence felt impossible. Ryan shook his head.
No.
"Ryan, I'm serious." Something wasn't adding up. Not at all. Then Sarah said something that changed everything. "You know Emily lied, right?" Ryan's blood ran cold. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm, too loud. "What did you say?" Sarah looked confused. "About the things she told you." Ryan stared at her, unable to speak. Sarah's face slowly changed. Understanding, realization, horror. "Oh my God." Ryan's heart hammered. "What things?" Sarah covered her mouth, then whispered, "Ryan." The truth came out piece by piece. Emily had been furious after the wedding. Furious about Ethan. Furious about Ryan. Furious about losing control. And apparently she'd been spreading lies for weeks. Ryan felt physically sick. Every belief he'd built over the last month started collapsing. Every assumption. Every conclusion. Every painful decision. All of it. Wrong. His hands trembled. Because if Emily lied, then what was the truth? Sarah hesitated before answering. Ethan never said those things. Ryan closed his eyes. A painful ache spread through his chest. Then Sarah delivered the final blow. The one that completely shattered everything Ryan thought he knew. Ethan quit his job. Ryan's eyes snapped open. What? Sarah nodded. He needed time away. The room spun. He left Seattle 3 days ago. Ryan could barely breathe. Where did he go? Sarah looked uncertain. I think he rented a cabin somewhere outside the city. Ryan stared at her. Heart pounding. Mind racing. Because suddenly one terrifying possibility became impossible to ignore. What if Ethan hadn't been pulling away? What if Ethan had been hurting too? And if that was true, then Ryan had just spent an entire month running from the one person who might have actually loved him back. Ryan barely remembered leaving the coffee shop. The moment Sarah gave him the cabin's location, he got in his car and started driving. Rain clouds covered the sky above Washington state. Traffic blurred past. His thoughts were louder than the storm.
Emily Lit.
Ethan never said those things. Ethan had spent weeks miserable. Ethan left Seattle. The realization hit harder with every mile. He hadn't been protecting himself. He had been running away from the truth. And if he was too late, if Ethan had finally decided to move on, Ryan wasn't sure he could survive that. The rain became heavier as he left the city behind. The road narrowed. Trees surrounded both sides. Dark clouds rolled across the mountains. By the time he reached the remote cabin, night had fallen completely. The storm was in full force. Thunder echoed through the forest. Ryan parked outside and stared at the warm light glowing through the cabin windows. His heart pounded. This was it. After 6 years. After all the confusion. After all the misunderstandings. There would finally be answers. Ryan stepped out into the rain and walked toward the door. For a moment he hesitated. Then knocked. Nothing. He knocked again. A few seconds later footsteps approached. The door opened, and there was Ethan. For several seconds neither spoke. Ethan looked shocked. Completely shocked. Rain dripped from Ryan's jacket. The wind howled behind him. Still neither moved. Finally Ethan whispered, "Ryan." Ryan swallowed. Ethan looked like he had seen a ghost. "What are you doing here?" Ryan laughed softly. The sound broke halfway through. "I think I should be asking you that." The silence returned. Then Ethan stepped aside. "Come in." The cabin was warm. A fire crackled inside the stone fireplace. The smell of coffee lingered in the air. Everything felt strangely peaceful, except the two men standing across from each other. Weeks of pain filled the room. Weeks of unanswered questions. Weeks of missing each other. Neither knew where to start. Finally Ryan spoke first. "Sarah told me everything." Ethan froze. Ryan continued. "Emily Lit." Ethan closed his eyes. For a moment he looked exhausted, like someone carrying a weight that had become impossible to hold. "I figured she'd done something." Ryan stared at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan laughed bitterly. "You stopped answering." The words hit Ryan hard. Because they were true. "I thought you were pushing me away." Ethan looked up. "Hell, Ryan." His voice cracked. "I thought you were pushing me away." Neither spoke. The storm outside rattled the windows. Ryan suddenly realized how easy misunderstandings had become. Two people terrified of losing each other. Both assuming the worst. Both suffering alone. And now they were finally here. Face to face. No excuses left. No lies left. Just truth. Ryan took a step forward. "Then tell me." Ethan looked confused. "Tell you what?" "The truth." Silence. Ryan's pulse quickened. "The wedding." Silence. "The jealousy." Ethan looked away. "The phone calls." More silence. Finally Ryan took a deep breath. "Tell me why you hated seeing me with Liam." The room became completely still. Even the fire seemed quieter. Ethan stared at the floor for several long seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because I couldn't stand it." Ryan's heart raced. Ethan laughed softly. "Asadlev." The kind people make when they're finally admitting something they've been hiding. For 6 years you were the safest person in my life. Ryan didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't interrupt. I never had to think about losing you. Ethan looked up. His eyes glistened in the firelight. Then suddenly another guy showed up. Ryan's chest tightened. And every time Liam made you laugh. Ethan shook his head. I felt sick. The words hung between them. Raw. Honest. Painfully honest. Ryan's heart hammered. Ethan. But Ethan wasn't finished. Because after weeks of silence, everything finally came pouring out. I thought I was straight. Ryan froze. The confession hit harder than anything else. Ethan ran both hands through his hair. Frustrated. Vulnerable. Terrified. I spent my whole life believing that. His voice cracked. Then you agreed to help me at the wedding. Ryan felt his eyes sting. Ethan laughed again. Do you know what the worst part was? Ryan slowly shook his head. The fake relationship didn't feel fake. The room fell silent. The fire crackled softly. Outside, rain slammed against the windows. Inside, 6 years of hidden feelings finally stood exposed. Ethan looked directly at him. No one ever made me feel what you make me feel. Ryan's vision blurred slightly. Not because of sadness. Because of relief. Because for years he'd dreamed about hearing those words. And now they were real. Ethan took a shaky breath. The day Liam touched your arm at that rooftop party. Ryan smiled through tears. Ethan pointed toward him. I wanted to throw him into the Pacific Ocean. Ryan laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in weeks. Ethan smiled too. The tension finally breaking. Then his smile slowly faded. Fear replacing it. What if I'm too late? The question shattered Ryan's heart. Because Ethan genuinely believed it. After everything. After all the jealousy. After all the feelings. He still thought Ryan might choose someone else. Ryan stepped closer. Then closer again. Until only a few inches separated them. Ethan. His voice was soft. Certain. Steady. You were never too late. The emotion in Ethan's eyes nearly broke him. Years of fear, confusion, regret, hope, all at once. And for the first time since they'd met, neither of them hid what they felt. Ryan reached for Ethan's hand. Ethan immediately held on, like he never wanted to let go again. Their eyes met. The world seemed to disappear.
No storm. No cabin. No misunderstandings.
Just them. Ryan smiled. A real smile. The kind that comes from finally finding home. Then Ethan leaned forward. Slowly. Giving Ryan every chance to stop him. Ryan didn't. Instead he closed the remaining distance. Their first kiss was gentle. Emotional, everything neither had been brave enough to say for years. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. Neither could stop. Neither wanted to. Ethan rested his forehead against Ryan's. I can't believe we almost ruined this. Ryan laughed softly. We definitely tried. We're idiots. Absolutely. They laughed together. And for the first time in weeks, everything felt right. 1 month later Seattle looked brighter somehow. Maybe because Ryan was happier. Maybe because Ethan was finally smiling again. Maybe because pretending was over. Now they were real. Movie nights became actual dates. Road trips became romantic getaways. Coffee runs turned into mornings together. And somehow their friendship became even stronger than before. Liam handled everything surprisingly well. When Ryan explained the situation, Liam simply smiled. I knew it. Ryan laughed. You knew what? Liam pointed at him. That your best friend was hopelessly in love with you. Even Ethan laughed when Ryan told him. A few weeks later they attended another wedding. This time as an actual couple.
No pretending.
No fake stories. No acting. Just truth. At one point an older woman smiled at them during the reception. So how long have you two been together? Ryan opened his mouth. But Ethan answered first. Officially. The woman nodded. Ethan smiled. About a month. The woman laughed warmly. Then walked away. Ryan looked at him. Officially. Ethan grinned. Well. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Ethan slipped an arm around his waist. Honestly, what? Ethan smiled. Probably since the day I got jealous. Ryan laughed, then kissed his cheek. The music played. The lights glowed. And for the first time in years, there were no secrets left between them. Just love. Just happiness. Just the beginning of everything they'd been searching for all along. Do you think Ethan was already in love with Ryan before the wedding? Or did he only realize it when he got jealous of Liam? Let me know your answer in the comments like this video. Subscribe and turn on notification.